Why is sex important? Ladies and gentlemen, let's get real for a moment. Sex isn't just about the act. It's about connection, health, and confidence. It's about intimacy, not just physically, but emotionally. When it's healthy and consensual, it becomes a powerful way to express love, reduce stress, and even improve sleep. Science backs it, psychology supports it, and let's be honest, we all feel better when we're seen, touched, and valued. This isn't taboo, this is truth. Stop whispering, start understanding, because when we embrace honest conversations, we unlock deeper relationships and a stronger sense of self. Sex is a vital part of emotional and physical well-being. It is more than just a biological act. It is a deep and powerful form of connection between individuals, rooted in both our bodies and our minds. At its core, sex is a natural human experience, an expression of love, passion, trust, and vulnerability. It plays a significant role in shaping how we relate to others, how we feel about ourselves, and how we experience the world around us. When approached with mutual respect, understanding, and consent, sex becomes a key pillar of a fulfilling and balanced life. Our bodies are designed to respond to physical intimacy, not just for reproduction, but for emotional closeness and bonding. When two people engage in a sexual relationship that is safe, respectful, and loving, their brains release a cocktail of chemicals: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, all of which are directly linked to happiness, stress relief, and emotional security. Oxytocin, sometimes called the love hormone, promotes feelings of attachment and trust, reinforcing the bond between partners. This chemical connection goes far beyond the moment of physical pleasure. It leaves a lasting emotional impact that strengthens relationships, encourages empathy, and builds resilience during tough times. But sex also speaks to something more personal, our sense of identity and self-worth. Feeling desired, appreciated, and connected on a physical level affirms that we are seen, that we matter. It reinforces the belief that we are worthy of love and intimacy. For many people, a fulfilling sex life is closely tied to self-confidence. It's not just about appearance or performance. It's about emotional presence, communication, and being fully engaged with another human being. When those elements align, people often report higher levels of satisfaction, not only in their romantic lives, but in their overall mental health and daily functioning. In long-term relationships, physical intimacy plays an essential role in maintaining closeness. Life gets busy. Responsibilities pile up, stress builds, but when couples make space for physical connection, even in small ways, it acts like emotional glue. It reminds them of the bond they share beyond bills, chores, and obligations. It revives the spark that brought them together in the first place. And when that intimacy is lost or ignored, it can create distance, misunderstanding, and emotional isolation. That's why maintaining a healthy sexual relationship is not about keeping up with an ideal or comparing oneself to others. It's about nurturing something sacred between two people. On a broader scale, sex also has direct health benefits. Numerous studies have shown that regular sexual activity can boost the immune system, improve cardiovascular health, reduce chronic pain, and even promote better sleep. It's not just good for the heart metaphorically, it literally helps keep the heart healthy. It's a natural stress reliever, helping the body relax, lowering cortisol levels, and improving overall mood. People who engage in satisfying sexual relationships often report feeling more energized, less anxious, and more connected to their daily lives. It enhances the quality of life in a way that no pill or supplement can replicate. And yet, despite all these benefits, sex is still shrouded in shame and silence in many cultures and communities. We hesitate to talk about it openly. We avoid the topic in schools, families, and even between partners. That silence often leads to misinformation, unrealistic expectations, and unhealthy relationships. When people are not taught to understand and respect their own bodies and boundaries, they are more likely to experience confusion, frustration, and hurt. That's why healthy sexual education and open conversation are so important, not just to prevent harm, but to promote well-being. We must learn to speak about sex the way we speak about exercise or diet, as an essential part of holistic health. Sex is not something to be feared, hidden, or distorted. When we approach it with honesty and care, it becomes one of the most beautiful expressions of human connection. It's where vulnerability meets strength, where trust meets excitement, where love meets playfulness. It is where we discover new dimensions of ourselves and others. And while it's not the only path to happiness or fulfillment, it can be one of the most profound. For those in relationships, it is a mirror that reflects the emotional climate between partners. For those discovering themselves, it's a journey of self-awareness and acceptance. In a world that constantly bombards us with conflicting messages, some hypersexualized, others deeply repressed, it's easy to lose sight of what sex truly is. A deeply human need for closeness and touch. We are wired for connection. From the moment we are born, we seek warmth, safety, affection. As we grow, those needs evolve but never disappear. Healthy sexual relationships fulfill that core longing for intimacy, not just physical, but emotional and spiritual. It's where words aren't enough, where gestures carry meaning, where silence is shared and understood. And that's what makes it so vital. It's not about frequency or technique. It's about presence. It's about being there fully without distraction or fear. It's about listening to your partner, being honest about your needs, and respecting theirs. It's about healing from past wounds, building trust, and daring to be seen. And in that space of shared vulnerability, something extraordinary happens. We grow, we open, we deepen. We love not just the other person, but ourselves more completely. When people are sexually fulfilled, they show up differently in the world. They're more grounded, more joyful, more at peace. Their relationships are stronger, their communication is clearer, and their resilience is greater. They know what it means to give and to receive, to touch and to be touched, to share without judgment. And in a time where so many are struggling with loneliness, anxiety, and emotional fatigue, that kind of connection is more important than ever. Let me know if you'd like this speech continued or adjusted for a specific audience. Open, honest conversations about sex break taboos and build deeper understanding. In a world that often treats sex as either scandalous or sacred, there's a silence that echoes louder than words. A silence that keeps people confused, ashamed, and disconnected. Too many people grow up surrounded by myths, fear, and unrealistic portrayals. From childhood through adulthood, sex is rarely discussed in a healthy, balanced, and truthful way. Instead, it's either avoided altogether or glamorized in media that skips over the emotional depth and responsibility that come with it. And yet, sex is one of the most personal, powerful aspects of human experience. The silence doesn't protect us, it isolates us. When people are not allowed to talk about sex openly, what fills the void is misinformation. Teenagers learn from porn instead of from people who care about their growth. Partners struggle in silence, unable to express their needs, frustrations, or desires. Questions remain unanswered, bodies remain misunderstood, and relationships suffer. Shame grows in the dark, but when we begin to talk, truly talk, With honesty, vulnerability, and compassion, we create space for understanding. And that space changes everything. To speak openly about sex is to take ownership of our humanity. It is to say, I deserve to understand my body, I deserve to ask questions, I deserve to know what's normal, what's healthy, what's safe. It is a way of reclaiming power from fear and judgment. These conversations are not just about physical acts, they are about communication, boundaries, trust, healing, pleasure, identity, and love. They are about dismantling the walls that keep us afraid of our own nature and building bridges that connect us to one another with honesty and respect. For many people, the idea of talking about sex openly feels terrifying, not because they're unwilling, but because they've been conditioned to feel ashamed. Cultural expectations, religious beliefs, and generational silence all contribute to a world where people are told to keep quiet. But silence does not create safety. Silence creates confusion. It creates secrecy, and secrecy breeds guilt. When we lift the veil, when we start the conversation, we allow people to breathe, to ask, to share, to learn. We allow them to stop pretending and start being real. That authenticity is what heals relationships, deepens intimacy, and strengthens individuals. One of the most powerful outcomes of open sexual dialogue is the normalization of diversity. People are not all the same. Desires vary, orientations vary, experiences vary, and when we talk openly, we see that there is no one-size-fits-all narrative. We see that people are complex, nuanced, and worthy of dignity, no matter how different their desires or experiences may be. Talking honestly removes the shame from difference. It gives people permission to be themselves. It helps partners understand each other not as objects of expectation, but as whole people with needs, fears, and dreams. In romantic relationships, open communication about sex is the difference between surface-level satisfaction and true connection. Without dialogue, assumptions take over. One partner might think everything is fine while the other feels invisible. One might be craving closeness while the other feels pressured. Miscommunication in the bedroom often becomes miscommunication in other parts of the relationship. But when people create a safe space to talk honestly without judgment, without ridicule, with real listening, walls fall down. Truth comes forward, needs are acknowledged, growth begins. That's how relationships evolve from fragile to unbreakable. And this isn't just about couples. This is about parents and children, educators and students, doctors and patients, communities and cultures. It's about changing the way we speak about sex across every generation and every space. Parents often fear that talking about sex will encourage risky behavior. But research shows the opposite. The more informed young people are, the more confident and safe they become. When they understand consent, respect, anatomy, and emotional responsibility, they make better choices. Knowledge doesn't corrupt. It protects, it empowers, and that empowerment lasts a lifetime. In schools, avoiding the topic doesn't erase curiosity. It intensifies it. And in the absence of truth, young minds turn to the internet, to rumors, to media that often portray sex without context, without consequences, without consent. When we bring real, honest education into the classroom, we give students the tools to understand themselves and others. We teach them to value their bodies, to recognize boundaries, to communicate clearly, and to respect difference. We create healthier communities from the inside out. In healthcare, open conversations about sex are essential for wellness. Many people live with preventable conditions or unresolved trauma because they're too ashamed to speak. Doctors avoid the topic because they don't want to make patients uncomfortable. Patients avoid the topic because they fear being judged. And so, crucial concerns are left unspoken. But when healthcare providers create a judgment-free space, when they treat sexual health as part of overall health, they invite honesty. That honesty leads to better diagnoses, better care, and better lives. In religious or conservative settings, talking about sex often feels forbidden. But silence in these communities does not prevent sexual harm, it often hides it. When people are taught that sex is shameful, dirty, or sinful without context, they carry guilt into their relationships. They carry fear into their marriages. They carry silence into their families. But when faith and sexuality are discussed with care, wisdom, and openness, something powerful happens. People begin to reconcile the two. They begin to understand that sex is not separate from their spiritual identity, it is part of it. It can be sacred, respectful, loving. It can reflect the very values their faith upholds: honesty, commitment, compassion, and respect. Even in friendships, open conversations about sex can be healing. Sometimes, all it takes is a trusted friend who's willing to listen without judgment. Sharing experiences, fears, questions, and joys allows people to feel less alone. It reminds them that what they're feeling is human, that they're not broken, that they're not weird. Just being heard can be transformative. Because for many, the most painful part of silence is the belief that no one else is going through the same thing. But when people speak up, they light the way for others, they break the stigma, they normalize the conversation. And in society at large, every voice matters. Artists, writers, influencers, educators, counselors, all have a role to play in shaping the narrative around sex. When the conversation is honest, thoughtful, and inclusive, it creates a ripple effect. It touches families, schools, relationships, media, and policy. It redefines what's acceptable to talk about. It opens the door for better laws, better protections, better education. And it leads us to a place where sex is no longer a secret to hide but a topic to understand. Let me know if you'd like this speech continued or adapted for a specific audience or event. So let's stop whispering and start speaking. With courage, with clarity, and with compassion. When we open the door to honest conversations about sex, we don't just break taboos. We build trust, deepen connection, and create a culture where truth replaces shame and understanding replaces silence, because real change doesn't begin in secret. It begins in dialogue, and it begins with us.